Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at our Best of Redditor updates, and in this one, the OP is getting themselves hexed left, right, and centre. So if that sounds like something you'd like to unpack with me today, then please do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. Okay, so this one was shared to the subreddit by Direct Caterpillar 77, and the title says, "My neighbour thinks I hexed her because her sourdough starter died, and now she's staging counterspells in my yard." Of course, as usual, Direct Caterpillar is not the original poster. The original poster is on the screen, posted from two different accounts apparently, and where it was originally posted. So this one has trigger warnings for cursing, black magic, possible threats, obsessive behaviour, and the mood spoiler is concerning, but also hilarious. Original post, August 8th, 2025. So, I live in a duplex, and my neighbour, let's call her Linda, is this 50-something woman who's really into witchcraft, crystals, moon water, the whole deal. I don't care, she's harmless. Or she was. About a month ago, she came over ranting that her sourdough starter died overnight, and that she could feel my energy was bad that day. I laughed, because it's bread goo. I told her I told her maybe it was just mould or she forgot to feed it. Big mistake. Ever since she's convinced I hexed her kitchen, she started doing these loud cleansing rituals in our shared front yard at 3 a.m, burning sage, chanting in what I think is bad Spanish, and sprinkling mystery liquid around my plants. One morning, I found my basil covered in glitter. Oh my goodness, now I'm giggling, obviously, because that, just your basil getting blasted by glitter is just a funny mental image, but we need to recognise this woman does not sound mentally well, and that is not funny. And so if I'm giggling at any of the contents of this post, it is because of, the funny imagery of the basil covered in glitter or things like that. I do not find the fact that this woman is clearly going through something funny, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. That is not funny, and she clearly does need help, and we do need to recognise that also. Last week, she escalated. I came home and there was a raw chicken, not even packaged, just a raw, slimy chicken, ew, sitting in the middle of my welcome mat with a note taped to it that said, "This curse is returned." I literally had to bleach my doorstep. I'm sorry, how did she get the sticky tape to stick to the slimy chicken? That's what I want to know. What sticky tape are you using? Because that sounds like some strong stuff and I think I need some. That has to be the most industrial strength sellotape I think I've ever heard of. I've tried ignoring it, but last night she knocked on my door holding a mason jar of cloudy water. Do not take that. Do not take that. And told me to drink this so we can be friends again. I said, "No, Linda," and shut the door. She started screaming that I don't respect the balance and that the bread gods will punish me. Oh, goodness me. Yeah, she genuinely needs help, I think. By the sounds of this, she is going through something and she genuinely needs some help. I would probably be referring this to the authorities in some way or another, especially if she's trying to get you to drink things and putting raw biohazards on your doormat. I'm now wondering if I should call the police, but how do you even explain my neighbour thinks I killed her yeast and was retaliating with poultry-based magic? Honestly though, because the call handler will be trying their best not to laugh if you said that, but how else do you say what's been going on and get taken seriously? Even though it is serious, it sounds so silly. Update August 10th, 2025. My post got taken down, but I'm still going to do an update. The night that I posted the story, I saw her last night burying a Ziploc bag of cooked spaghetti under my car and yelling that she has to do this to confuse the bread spirits. I thought that would be my last straw, but then last night I saw her in my backyard. my fenced backyard, shaking what looked like a salt shaker all over my lawn while mumbling something about restoring the bread line. That was it. I called the non-emergency police line. I would like to say as well that this post is fake because of the ridiculousness of it. But there is a lady on TikTok who shares her own psychosis stories from herself. Like, she is the one who experienced psychosis, and she has explained some of the things she did when she was in psychosis, and it makes no sense. And it is very outlandish. And even she says some of them are so funny because they're just so outlandish, so silly. But obviously that doesn't take away from the seriousness of what this woman's obviously going through. And it obviously goes to show that, you know, yes, it sounds silly and crazy because it's not normal behaviour. The person is not in their right mind. And obviously I can't sit here and diagnose someone and say, yeah, they're definitely in psychosis. But I mean, yelling about the bread gods and having to restore the bread line sounds pretty bob on for it, doesn't it? So if I was to hazard a guess, I would go along those veins, to be fair. 2 officers showed up 20 minutes later. I explained the whole situation, the dead sourdough starter, the 3 a.m. chanting, the raw chicken, the jars of swamp water, the spaghetti burial, all of it. I tried to make it sound serious, but not too insane. I would love to have seen the policeman's face as you were explaining this to them. Just for science. They go to talk to her, and within 30 seconds I hear her yelling, "She's lying! The dough told me what she did!" And then she drags them into her kitchen to show them the evidence. 10 minutes later, the officers come back out looking like they've just survived a hostage negotiation with the Pillsbury Doughboy. They said she has some unusual beliefs, but as long as she's not physically harming me or damaging my property, their hands are tied. Are they forgetting the mysterious jar cocktail that she tried to feed you? They suggest I install a fence. I have one. And avoid engaging. As they were leaving, Linda stood on her porch holding a loaf of bread over her head like the Lion King baby and screamed, "The curse will turn on you!" I'm sorry, and they didn't think that anything needed to be done? What? I mean, that does check out, to be honest, for police, doesn't it, really? So now I have police documentation, 0 solutions, and a neighbour who probably thinks she won that round. But yeah, I think considering that's the end of the updates, I do think it's important to, again, address the fact that this woman's probably going through something psychological and probably needs help. So I think if you know someone who's acting like this, behaving really, really obscurely, you know, shouting things like this in the middle of the night, trying to bury spaghetti under your car and believing that the bread is talking to them, it may be time to look into getting them some help, because obviously they're not going to think that they need help. They are not going to go searching for it themselves. They think what they're doing is perfectly normal and acceptable in that moment. They aren't going to recognize it. So it is kind of, you know, unfortunately on us as people from the outside looking in to then go, okay, so I know this person, I know where they live, I know their name, blah, blah, blah. I need to try and get them some help and advocate for them, because they are not going to do it for themselves, and this could end up in them hurting someone else, or more likely hurting themselves, because that's normally how it goes. So, down in the comments of the Best of Redditor Updates post, Seething Heathen says, that reminds me of when 20 years ago, my upstairs neighbour was seriously convinced that I was a vampire because I was going through some crap and only left my apartment at night because I was sleeping all day to avoid life. She hung garlic on my doorknob. Maybe she and Bread Lady should find a cheese weirdo and open a food truck. And then Bubblegum Drop says, that was kind of rude of her. You were a vampire in your own apartment. I once had roommates who stole my hairbrush and put it in a salt circle because of bad spirits or something. They wrote sigils on the wall that they saw in a supernatural, like, what the F? If my brush is haunted, it's still not your problem. What? And then P Fire says, if my brush is haunted, it's still not your problem. New flare unlocked. And then Dave Has Opinions says, I'm also partial to no, Linda. Okay, I think we've got time for another one, considering we're only on 10 minutes at the moment. So we'll read another one from Best of Redditor Updates. Direct Caterpillar 77 posted this one, and the title says, I, 21F, set up a date between my two friends, 29M and 29F. Something went wrong that night, and now my guy friend won't talk to me. And again, obviously, Direct Caterpillar isn't the person who posted it, just like with the last one. So this one has some trigger warnings for sexual assault, loss of a spouse and mother, mood spoiler, confused and horrified. If you don't want to listen to any of that, then please do dip out now. This is the last story of the post anyway. So this was originally posted January 2nd, 2017. My goodness, this is quite an old one now. I met my friend Chuck, 29M, about 1.5 years ago. We were both part of an online local group for single parents and eventually met offline with other group parents. I have known Britt, 25F, since high school. Chuck's wife died of childbirth complications the day that their daughter was born, more than 2 years ago. Oh, that's really sad. Britt is a few months out of a 9-year relationship. Both of them have expressed wanting to meet other people, and I thought that they would be good for each other because of common interests, and we all have kids of similar ages. 2 days before Christmas, Chuck and Britt went out on their first date. I kept Chuck's daughter at my house so the two could have some more time together without him having to worry about the baby. The plan was for her to spend the night. She's done it before and gets along great with my 3-year-old girl. But Chuck knocked on my door at 11 p.m. to get his daughter. He barely said a word to me, and I could tell that he'd been crying, but he wouldn't tell me what was wrong. The next day, I asked Britt what happened. She said that they had had dinner and a couple drinks. Things were going excellent. She said that she felt like they had great chemistry and were even getting physical at his house. But he suddenly told her to stop and to leave immediately. She swears that she has no idea what she did wrong and is really hurt by the whole thing. I believe her. She is really sweet and social. I've never seen her do anything to pee anyone off. I tried to talk to Chuck at the same time to get his side of the story and see what went wrong. All he said was that he wasn't feeling it and didn't want to discuss it further. I didn't push it, but when I went to wish him a Merry Christmas a day later, I saw he had deleted me from his social media. I texted him instead and asked, "Are you okay?" But no response. I am seriously hurt and don't know what to do. Chuck has become one of my closest friends, and our daughters are best friends too. I am really worried that this has something to do with his wife, and I want to apologise if he felt like I was pressuring him to date after the death. At the same time, I don't want to overstep boundaries and bother him when he's having a hard time. It's been over a week, and I'm really worried, upset. TLDR, I set my two friends up on a date. Things were apparently going well until my guy friend suddenly called off the date. He has now deleted me from his social media and will not talk to me. Relevant comments, theories, deleted. Chuck's daughter will be a constant reminder of his late wife. He still hasn't finished grieving and/or isn't ready to move on. Guilt about enjoying female company and getting physical contact will be huge. He would feel he has to hide emotions from his daughter about his late wife. He has locked them away and is doing the same thing now. Give him time and let him know who you are, and let him know that you are there when he is ready. And then OOP says, I completely agree with you and will be giving him plenty of space for a while before I try to talk to him again. Thank you. We've actually talked about the constant reminder thing. Little Chuck looks exactly like his wife, and apparently it is getting harder instead of better because of that. I kind of feel like a jerk for being offended by him not speaking to me. I can't imagine the pain. And then Beaver Vest says, it sounds like he's not ready to be dating and he's displacing that guilt on you as you were the one who set it up, with completely good intentions, and now he feels like you're responsible for how he feels. My suggestion would be to wait it out. It could take some time, weeks or months. If you continue to contact him often, it will only make it worse and push him away. I would let it be clear. A couple of weeks and maybe once more reach out with an apology again saying your friendship and each other's daughter's friendship means a lot to you. If he cold shoulders you again, you need to move on. Unfortunately, life is a set of friendships that pass as our lives continue where they need to head. And then OOP says, that's what my gut was telling me. I just wanted to make sure that I was doing enough. Hopefully he'll come around because I have gotten really attached to him and his kid. It would be so sad to never see them again. Aw, and I feel sorry for OP's kid and obviously Chuck's kid as well. And of course Chuck as well. But because obviously they know none of this stuff and they're Bessie mates. And now it's like, oh, are they not going to be able to see each other? That's really sad. Especially because when you're a kid, friendships feel like the end of the world when they end. So then Fennec Schmurder says, he realised you consider him a friend. He clearly expected more. And then edit, someone mentioned that Chuck may be in love with me, but deleted the comment. I still want to address that. He is almost a full decade older than me, and he has never expressed those feelings for me at all. In fact, the week before he cut me off, he said that I was a great friend, and he was happy that his daughter had some female figures in her life. So then Fennec Schmurder says, I'm the one who mentioned he might be expecting romance with you, and I didn't delete the comment. I got downvoted into oblivion. Yeah, that's probably because it's a bit odd to always just assume that, you know, a man and a woman cannot be friends. One of them must want to shag the other one. Like, you can't possibly just be mates. Edit. Someone mentioned that Chuck may be in love with me, but deleted the comment. I still want to address that. He's almost a full decade older than me and has never expressed those feelings for me at all. In fact, the week before he cut me off, he said that I was a great friend and he was happy that his daughter had some female figures in her life. You mean like a new mum? No, dude, God. A great friend just needs a little intimacy and a mutual attraction to become a significant other. Common interest, trust, respect are already there. Read the signs. Being a decade older never prevented men to be romantically interested in younger ladies. The fact that you use it as a demonstration might indicate that you don't want to see that he may be into you while still mourning his wife. That's perfectly legit, but people feeling rejected might try stuff like dating your friend and/or cut relationship. I'd say the biggest problem with the sub is that it's always one-sided and people sometimes cannot be fully aware of the other people's signs and communication. It's still a theory. Like, yeah, of course, could it be possible? Of course it could. It could be possible if they were both the same gender, for God's sake. Like, just the fact that they're a man and a woman doesn't mean that there's no possibility one couldn't be feeling the other one. If it was a man and a man, one could be feeling the other one. And if it was a woman and a woman, the one could be feeling the other one. Do you know what I mean? But I would say that it doesn't automatically mean that. Just because someone acts a bit funny, it doesn't automatically mean that they wanted into the other one's pants. And it is a bit annoying. And I think that's probably why the OP got downvoted into oblivion, because it is annoying that immediately people see friends of the opposite sex and go, they clearly, one of them wants to shag the other one. That's where the problems are. And that's probably why, because it's a very tired way of thinking. And also that way of thinking is quite toxic. Edit 2. Thanks for all your advice, everyone. I think I will give it another week before I speak with him again. If he hasn't reached out by then, I will tell him that I am still here if he needs to talk, but I will continue to give him space if he needs that too. I am almost 100% sure that this happened because of his wife's death. Another one of my friends who is still on his Facebook saw that he had changed his cover photo several times since Christmas, and all of them were from his wedding. Update January 12th, 2017, 10 days later. Chuck finally contacted me 2 days ago. He apologised for unfriending me and not talking to me. As many of you said, he was embarrassed by what happened on the day and even angry at me for setting them up. She completely lied to me. He maintains that they went to dinner and had drinks, but then he says that Britt got completely crap-faced and was trying to get him to have S in the parking lot. When he said no, she got very aggressive to the point where he made her get out of his car and got her a cab. Once he knew she was gone, he went to my place to get his daughter and was so miffed at me that he couldn't talk to me about it. Of course, I apologised profusely and told him I didn't know that she was like that at all. He doesn't blame me and said that I don't need to be sorry. So we're cool now. That is awful. What an absolute poo stain Britt is. Like, what the hell? I confronted Britt yesterday. All I said was that Chuck told me a different version of events. She started crying and admitted to everything all on her own. She asked if I could forgive her, and I said yes. but I'm not sure if I was telling the truth. I'm not sure if I should keep Brit as my friend. I am really disgusted by her behaviour, and I know if the sexes were reversed, I would stay the hell away from her. Exactly, you just got to think of it in that point of view. If it was reversed and Brit was a dude and Chuck was a woman, you'd be infuriated, and you should be infuriated because Chuck is a man and Brit is a woman. Like, you should still be infuriated. It's still just as disgusting. So, relevant comments. AZ Green Tea says, wow, I've been waiting patiently for this update, but I definitely did not expect this. Sorry about your friend Brit, OP. I'm glad things between you and Chuck are okay now. And then OOP says, me neither. I would never have guessed if he didn't tell me. And then Faceless Void, nothing to do with me, thank you. You could just distance yourself for a bit. If I were you, it will definitely depend on her actions from here on. No, I wouldn't be friends with someone who could do that. Is she really apologetic? Has she sent a sincere apology to Chuck? Is this person a lawyer for rich white boys? If yes, I will still maintain a friendship, but maybe not hang out with her too much for a while. It's still pretty annoying that she acted so stupidly and then lied to your friend afterwards. What for, I don't know, as if you won't find out the truth sooner or later. But if she is a great friend otherwise, this is forgivable given time and good attitude on her part. At least now you know not to set her up anymore with any of your friends. I'm sorry, but trying to force yourself on someone is not a little mistake. That is disgusting behaviour. What the hell? What the actual hell? She literally got aggressive with him when he said no. Why would you want to be mates with someone like that? I wouldn't give anyone like that a second chance. And then OOP says, totally with you on lying. I'm super annoyed that this could have been solved way earlier with honest communication from everyone involved. She apologised for lying, but not anything else. Just excuses about how she acts when she drinks too much. And then Organic Frost says she got really aggressive. Make no mistakes, that means she actually assaulted him. Regardless of how successful she was, in that context, his response makes total sense. I'd drop her. Edit. She apologised for lying but not anything else, just excuses about how she acts when she drinks too much. This is a quote from you in another comment. That means it's not her first time she's assaulted someone. Yeah, that means she tries to force herself on people when she gets drunk an awful lot, which is concerning. OOP then says, this is a quote from you in another comment. That means it's not her first time she's assaulted someone. Holy crap. I don't know how I didn't catch that. Thank you. Commenter, I think perhaps before cutting Brit out of your life, you should straight out ask Chuck if he felt she was R-wordy or just a pushy drunk. Did he have to physically force her out of the car? Lots of guys call women names and act like a-holes when we refuse to have S with them, but there is a huge difference between being a drunken jerk and an R-wordist. Did Chuck feel threatened by Brit or just offended and turned off by her? Chuck obviously doesn't want to go on a second date, but he may not feel you can't be friends with Brit. No, why are we trying to exonerate Brit? She acted disgustingly. The minute you get aggressive when someone says no, whether you actually act on it, you're trying to coerce someone. So you're trying to get them to do something against their will, you know? Aggression is coercion. It doesn't matter which way you dress it up. Why are you trying to make excuses for this woman and her behaviour? And then OOP says he felt threatened for sure. He said the other day, and in hindsight, I could feel it when he came to my house that night. He had been crying and didn't talk to anyone for weeks. Yeah, he probably felt so embarrassed as well because there's this whole thing of oh, this can't happen to men. It can, and clearly it did. And that is what stops them from talking about it. And then Anxious Reporter 601, oh my god, I just saw their little tagline thingy. I will erupt feral from the cardigan screaming. I don't know why that proper made me chuckle. Oh god, poor Chuck. First day after his wife's death and he gets sexually assaulted. That's the nightmare. And then Mrs. Slab Bulkhead says that's the worst part. He was finally trying to move on from one horrible traumatic event, only to be hit with another horrible traumatic event. I sadly wouldn't be shocked if it took him years for him to go on another date with someone. Honestly, same. Poor bloke. I feel so bad for him. Poor Chuck. Brit, you are a piece of excrement, a stinky, vile one. Okay, so I think that's all we've got time for today. I'm going to end this one on the note of whether you are a bloke or a woman, if someone tries to force you into doing something sexually that you are not comfortable with, that you don't want to do, that's assault, or at least attempted assault, and you need to talk to someone about it. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel like, oh, that's not severe enough. It's severe. It's enough. And you deserve to talk to someone about it. Don't bottle it up. Don't think that, oh no, that, make excuses. It wasn't that bad. It can't happen to me because I'm a guy. It can. And you deserve to talk to someone at least about it. So, if you made it all the way to the end with me, I appreciate you very, very much. If you give a little like, subscribe, that is your If you do a little like, subscribe, notifications on, that's your initiation into the cult of void. Welcome. Whatever it is you're doing today, I hope you have a really good rest of the day. Goodbye.